things.
Sounds good. Jim, I got to come out and get my allocation pickup too.
Oh, come anytime. Beautiful weekend we have coming up.
Remember when I can come out, but
well, just come on. It's beautiful. You know, weather's fantastic.
I know.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And it's got to be one of the most beautiful areas. The other day when we were there, it was just stunning. It was absolutely stunning.
Thank you, Carol. That's so nice of you to say. I'm definitely voting to keeping your parking, seating area. There's no question. I really do. I agree though with Carol. I think it adds to the vibrancy of downtown. I think it just adds another dimension, and I would really be sorry to see it go.
Well, especially once the tents are gone and, like we've got the umbrellas again, and we're planning to put a really good investment in to make it look gorgeous. And, it's just part of the whole thing. This, everything's new now. Everything after COVID is new. It's like a clean slate. And we got to make it work.
Some places close the street off, and now they're talking about not reopening it, in some towns, because they put them on both sides and they actually close the street off. Now you can't do that in that square, I don't think, but it looks like in some places in the United States, it's the city saying we're just going to leave the street closed and let the restaurants, use the street, and people can walk down the middle of the street without any concern for traffic. So people like it.
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like a piazza in Italy or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We got our own little Italy going on.
Our own little Europe going on. We've got French, we've got Spanish, we've got Italian, we've got all that stuff going on downtown. And it just makes sense. It just makes sense. People want that. They really, really want to be outside.
Yeah. And we have the perfect weather, the perfect area. I mean,
that's the deal.
Gorgeous. Yeah. It's good to see you guys too. Miss seeing you in person. Like I see Carol every once in a while at the restaurant, but
well,
I haven't seen Chris, and
I have to say,
I know beard you have going on.
Becky, it's sometimes I don't recognize you without your sunglasses on.
Exactly.
Yeah, you are a sunglass wearer. Yeah.
I know. I do have eyes. Baby blues. That's why I wear the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we have a few of our regulars on again. Steve and Martha Hewitt checking in from Columbus, Ohio. They say they don't have a 6 Mile Bridge wine, so they opened a Royal None Such Farm wine. So
second best.
There you go. Awesome. And I know we're getting a few people over there on the Facebook signing on now that we just went live there. So we'll let some people catch up to us over on that side of things. And then we'll get rolling here. But it's great to see everybody's smiling faces on a beautiful Paso afternoon. Man, it's warm out there for April 1st, right?
Yep.
Yep.
No joke.
I did think it was funny that you asked us to be on today. I was like, April Fool's Day.
Fool's Day, yeah.
What, Chris?
I really honestly didn't even take it into consideration. And I actually, to be honest, forgot it was. And then my wife told me today that my 10-year-old, when she asked him to fill up her water bottle in the morning as they were getting ready to get out the door, he decided to fill it full of milk, orange juice, and apple juice and handed it to her.
Oh.
Wow.
That's a blend I don't know I want to try.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and I don't think it got past her nose. And she's like, but that's pretty good. That's pretty creative. All right, on everyone. Thanks again for coming and joining us over here on the Paso Wine Hour. This Thursday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon again. And we are going to have another kind of fun and different show today. Where we're going to be talking about the community that we live in and how it gives back into community, specifically through Must Charities. I have with me as our guests today, Becky Gray with Must Charities, along with a few community members who are very active with Must in so many different ways. We've got Carole MacDonal with Il Cortile Ristorante, as well as La Cosecha. And so she'll get into those two restaurants and what they provide and what she does in the community. And then we also have Jim Moroney with 6 Mile Bridge, a newer brand here in Paso that is making some spectacular wines, as noted by Steve and Martha Hewitt over there in Columbus, Ohio. Their winemaker also has Royal Nonesuch Farm as well as Denner, and that would be Anthony Yount. So thank you everybody for joining in today. Hey, I want to start with Jim. Jim, why don't you say hello and tell us a little bit about 6 Mile Bridge?
Well, great. Thank you. I appreciate it, Chris. Jim Moroney, Barbara and I are the owners of 6 Mile Bridge. We opened up our tasting room in June, right kind of in the end of the first sort of COVID closing. We're on Peachy Canyon, right in between, say, Law and Villa Creek. And we've got a beautiful little spot that we'd love you to come visit and taste our wines.
Awesome. Yeah, and it is a beautiful spot. We had the opportunity, even though we were in the midst of the pandemic last summer, to come out shortly after you opened, and it's a beautiful spot and great wines as well. Carole with Il Cortile. Hello.
Hello. I am with Il Cortile and La Cosecha. My husband and I own both of them. I have to say hello to my sister who just came on from Phoenix. So Santos and I started Il Cortile in 2009. So we're talking almost 12, 13 years ago. And La Cosecha in 2013. So we've been a part of the community for a while. We love this community, and both restaurants are coming back after being shut down on and off again for the past year. So things are, with this weather the way it is, and with things opening up the way they are, and people getting vaccines, we're kind of roaring back. So we're happy. We're as happy as can be right now.
Yay.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about the parklets that we have here in Paso. And if it weren't for those, for me, I probably wouldn't have gone and had a really amazing and lovely dinner at Il Cortile when I did have a journalist visit over the winter, actually. So it was actually kind of cold out, or well, cold for Paso anyway, not like the East Coast where they're braving some really ridiculous temperatures in their outdoor dining. But a great meal, and looking forward to getting back there again. And Becky Gray, Must Charities.
Hey, thanks for having me. And these two amazing people on this panel as well. But I'm the executive director of Must Charities, and we manage social giving that creates lasting impacts in our community that are addressing the biggest social issues in our community.
Yeah, and we're going to get into a lot of those, all the programs that she is in charge and at the head of, and as well as some of her leadership and how it ties back into the community. And I think I've said and shared a lot on this this little show about community over all of these shows. You know, we're coming up on almost a year anniversary that we started this. It was April 8th of last year. And the whole time, I think that common thread has been community and how our community kind of rallies for those in need, or those who need some sort of a helping hand. I think a lot of the times we highlight the camaraderie of the region, like, you know, when something breaks, like during bottling or whatever, and somebody needs a pump or a filter or whatever it might be, a new tool, and a neighbor can help out. But then there's a bigger picture when it comes to the community at large. And this is where Must Charities steps in. This is where they're able to really look, and it goes well beyond just the wine industry. It goes into so many things and so many pieces of this fabric of our community that they're really a part of and helping out, that for so many, without them, they literally would have nothing. And Becky, I'd love for you to kind of go a little deeper into some of the programming and some of the things that you do for the community, and then how the wine community ties back in.
Yeah, well, I think I would have to do justice to start with kind of how the wine community ties into it in general, because this whole concept birthed out of the wine industry. So it's 5 winery owners who saw the need to give back. You know, we've all been philanthropic in our lives and done different things, but always wondered, like, what impact does this have? And in this industry, you get phone calls all the time asking to go pour at an event or donate cases to an auction or what have you, really great causes. But then in the early conversations, it was, hey, well, what are we doing to take care of our own people right here in our community? And so that's where it all started. And then tying in the Wine Alliance is amazing. Last year when COVID hit, one of our biggest projects right now happens to be the homeless prevention project, because we knew that people in our community, every community out there has a homeless issue that they're dealing with. And it's big. It's a lot to tackle. There's so many underlying layers and reasons as why people are homeless. But one of the things that we saw is, how do we in this pandemic prevent more people from sliding into homelessness, and what can we do to prevent that? And I am super stoked to tell you that as of the end of February, I don't have March's numbers yet because that just ended, but as of the end of February, we have prevented 167 people in this Paso region from falling into homelessness. That is huge. That's a big deal, really big deal. So yeah, so that's kind of just gives you a glimpse. We basically align ourselves with nonprofits who are servicing the biggest community needs. We don't do that. We manage social giving. So donors come in, we pool our funds, and we invest strategically into those organizations who are servicing the needs in our community.
Yeah, and I know that we see a lot of different brands in the Paso Robles region when they will do these kind of greater giving kind of promotions, where they might say like a certain percentage of sales over a certain weekend, or maybe there's a specific bottling, or maybe there's an event or something like that. And then there's big percentages that will go to Must charities. We should mention the name and how the name got its start. Can you do that though for me?
Sure. So Must is a wine term. For those people, when we first started, people were like, what's the acronym? And we're like, there is no acronym. So Must, we have an exclamation mark on it as well, because we wanted to make sure, so Must, and you guys in the wine industry, really correct me if I'm wrong on this, okay? Because this could be a test right now. So, to me, the way I define Must is, in the wine world, is like basically everything kind of combined, the leaves, the fruit, the skins, like everything in the beginning. And then what comes out in the end is this beautiful end product. And is that good? Am I right? Kind of, sort of. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with it. It works for me. So anyways, and then we also have this intrinsic desire of, we must do something to help the less fortunate in our community. We just never know when one of us or any of our neighbors have a need. And it's just, we have this, we must do something. We must give back. We must help. Yeah. And
it's interesting in the community that we live in, being this wine community, how often wineries are hit up for certain charitable givings and donations in so many different ways, and from so many different organizations. And it was some really great foresight by some of the founders of Must to sit there and say, okay, well, can we not leverage that we do in a way that can then be maybe more impactful? And I know that back, from some of those folks, like I think Doug and Sabrina Cruz were part of that. You might even be having one of their wines right now. And a few others that had that foresight. Remind me again now when Must was established? So technically conversation started in 2010, but in 2012 was when we really launched, February of 2012. We started our first project in the summer of 2012. Got it. And that was that project was a Boys and Girls Club that was one club servicing 100 kids on the brink of closing its doors on a monthly basis, not sure if they could remain open, came alongside, help address a lot of things, turnaround specialists. They went from one club serving 100 kids to now regional merge and over 12 club sites serving over 6,000 kids. I mean, that's what we do. We have fun. That's amazing. And my kids actually were going to the Boys and Girls Club in Paso back then actually as well. And I remember seeing some of the effects, as a matter of fact, of seeing some good improvements happening actually over at the building and such. So that's great. Awesome. So, hey, Carole, so back in 2009, right? That's when Il Cortile started. So it's a little bit before, say, when Must was formally, but you've been on board with Must pretty much from the beginning. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we weren't sure how to do it. Like restaurants get hit up as much as the wineries do it for everything. And when this came along, it was kind of like, this is an amazing vehicle because not only does it take care of local need,
but it helps us to manage what we want to do with our charitable donations. So we didn't know what to do in the beginning, or how to manage it. So when we started, we were doing, I'm pretty sure it was $1 per bottle sold.
Yep.
And boy, at the end of the year, we were like, wow, did we sell that many bottles? And it's like, oh. No, we would do it like every quarter. And we would go, wow, we're selling some good wine here. And it turned out to be a really, really good thing. So we carried it over into La Cosecha as well. And then I don't know if you remember this, we were trying to come up with many, many different things. And you and I, Becky, worked with some of the local businesses. We did a third Thursday, which is an idea I stole from a friend of mine over at Salon Rue. Every third Thursday of the month, she had a special event, and she gave 20% off her goods or something like that, some discount. So for a short period of time, maybe a year, we partnered up with a lot of the downtown businesses and offered something on the third Thursday of every month, and the proceeds would go to Must. So what we've done at the restaurants is trying to figure out, like how do we partner in a way that's really, really helpful rather than to just give money, So recently what we did because of COVID, we were happy that, we're preventing people from being homeless. And we were trying to think of what's the best way to do something, because we were struggling as well for the past year. And it's been a hard year. Mm-hmm. So we decided one way to keep some of our employees employed, the kitchen staff in particular, was we offered online or call in to go business, and you could, for $20 you could feed 2 homeless people, and for $30 you could feed 4 homeless people, and it's called Feed Paso. And so we did that probably I think it's from the fall of last year, and we're still doing it, although it's not as busy because everybody's going out to dinner again. And what we do is we had a tremendous response, and we've go to the Echo homeless shelter and permanent housing now in Paso Robles, and we provide meals. We get scheduled maybe 2-3 times a month, and it turned out to be a really, really good thing for us. And just in your explanation, Becky, one of the cool things is one time I had to go by myself, and so one of the guys in line helped me unload the car. And he said, it was towards the end of the month, and he said, this is really helping me because I'm a fisherman and the fish aren't biting, and it's the end of the month. He was not homeless. He just needed a hand. And it was, like just that whole organization and everything that you've done with partnering with Echo has been awesome. And I think it just makes our hearts feel good that we're also in line with trying to prevent people from becoming homeless at this point, and providing meals for people who are.
Yep.
And speaking of Echo is it's what's called the El Camino Homeless Organization. It's based down a little south of here in Paso, but still within our region in the Atascadero. And so they do some amazing work in not only helping to shelter and feed homeless, but I think there's also some programming that, Becky, I believe you're even a part of, like some mentoring and some kind of education and some job mentoring as well.
Yeah, so we got involved with Echo because, again, community need. Homelessness is an issue that we have to deal with. And it was one site in Atascadero. It's now 2.5 sites now. So we do have a permanent Paso location as well. But it's a 90-day program. It's program based. So really helping people who are ready to help themselves. Those are the residents that are living there, but also will feed anyone that needs a meal. So there's an open meal program at both site locations, and anyone can come and get a meal if they're hungry and need a meal. And that is, like, talk about community driven. I mean, Carole and I go back to 2012, I think, when we first met. Someone introduced us and she was all on board on the Must concept. But then it's people like her that just continually step up, and like now they're meal providers and all of that connection. So it's more than just an investment that we give in the nonprofit. It's really like bringing a community all around from all aspects to help and give back. And with Echo, we took them, they were a 17-year organization at the time we started with them, about a $350,000 annual operating budget, 50 beds to now over 140 shelter beds, over $1.7 million operating budget. So we helped them transition and strategize how to grow so that they could ultimately serve our community better. That's the win. So that's the investment, is how do we invest strategically? Kind of like venture capitalism, I call it venture philanthropy. We're investing in these organizations looking for a return, but it's a positive social return for our community, which is a huge win.
Amazing, amazing. Hey, Jim, you're kind of sort of in a way new kid on the block as far as a brand, but you've been invested in this community for a little while. Talk a little bit about what attracted you into being a part of Must Charities.
Well, Barbara and I have always been very, we both believe very much that if you live in a community, you need to give back to it. That community has provided you with so many intangible things that you don't really pay for, but you obtain from just living there, that it's always been a practice of ours. Barbara still runs a private foundation based in Dallas, and Becky knows I had a chance to chair the community foundation in Dallas that is set up for that purpose. So it's something we spend our time on. It's something we believe in. And when we came here, we didn't really know, the charities and so forth. And in fact, I talked to several people and just triangulated. They all mentioned Must Charities. Some would mention other things, but they'd all mentioned Must Charities. So I reached out to Becky, and we had a phone call, found out that we had a common friend, a very close friend of mine from Dallas that has moved to Cambria and now lives in Arroyo Grande. And we sat down and we talked, and I really wanted to hear what they were doing and so forth. And then to just move forward a little bit, when COVID came, I asked Becky, what they were doing about COVID. And what I liked about it was sort of a two-part thing. It wasn't just helping people who found themselves perhaps out of employment, trying to make ends meet, so forth and so on. But the way she said, look, we're also going to help another problem from getting worse than it is. And we know what will happen if we don't do something about it. And I kind of said, what do you mean? She said, well, if we don't provide for these people that have found themselves in these difficult circumstances, sort of without any preparation, they're going to become homeless. And she said, you saw it back, I think, in 08, 09 here in this area, like every area, the homelessness just grew. And so I said, great, we can help the people who are having an unfortunate and unexpected experience in their life, and also keep from having to have ECHO find more beds for more people. And I'll confess to you, and this is just a big city bias of mine, because that's where I've grown up most of my life. I was shocked to realize how many, on even a percentage basis, homeless people there are in North County. And this is everywhere. I just so much thought homelessness was an urban problem, and it's not. And what Must has done in connection with ECHO to help increase the number of beds, and even more importantly, and this is what I like about Must, and I guess there's different words to use for it, but outcome-based philanthropy. Philanthropy that tries to be sustaining. So you're that old expression, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach him to fish, feed him for his life. And I think that Must talks a lot about that we're trying to not just help a one-time problem, but let's put people that are homeless into permanent housing and help them find a job so they won't find themselves homeless again. So Must became kind of a one-stop shop for all that. And Barbara and I couldn't be more pleased to be able to do it.
Awesome. That's a great segue into that kitchen project, if you want to talk about that. Because, so we, in 2017, when we partnered with ECHO, they asked us to renovate their kitchen at their Atascadero site. And we're like, well, yeah, you need a kitchen. This is like, we really need to renovate a kitchen, but why? Like, show us how can our community benefit from it? What does that look like? And Carole and I had some conversations in 2012, 13, when she was just coming on board, and she's like, I really want to be a part of something bigger with Must, but I don't know what that looks like right now, but keep me informed on the projects. So then comes 2019, And we are about to launch a project. I talked to Carole, I go, hey, they want this kitchen. What are like some of the things that you guys need in the restaurant industry? And Carole's like, well, it's really hard for us to fill a line cook and dishwasher positions. And I was like, but anybody can do that. It's just minimal training. Like anyone can do that job. And she's like, yeah. And so I said, let me tell you about this like project idea we have, which is a community kitchen that is also a workforce development center. And I called Carole and I was like, come tour this. She called Santos, I think was getting on a plane somewhere. Yeah. And Carole came in and just eyes lit up like, I want to be involved in this. This is a win for our restaurant industry as well. It's a win for community. It's helping people get jobs. Like, this is really what it's all about. And she picked up the phone and called Santos. He was in the airport, I think, and was like, you get back, you got to get down here and see this. And so we just are unveiling that. I think a press release went out today. It's amazing. And talk about the sustainability. One of the things that we require of our nonprofits is that, yeah, it's a $385,000 investment, total investment that went into it. A lot of community leverage. Carole brought in professional designers, architects, like everybody that knew that end of the deal. And they partnered with us and a lot of donations came in. And the cool thing is in 2023, COVID kind of set us back a little bit, but that's okay. 2023, they're actually going to create a social enterprise product that will be made out of that location. So they'll be making a product, packaging it, marketing it, selling it, probably at a local farmer's market. We're looking at a nutritionally dense instant kind of dry soup product. And that then the funds, not only will every time a packet's sold, one will be given to someone in need, which is huge and amazing, but also then those funds will help fund the organization too. So that's the sustainability that we look for when we make an investment in our community.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's so cool to hear how it's progressing even further now as well. You know, there's a lot of wineries that that are a part of Must. And this kind of takes us back into, you know, wine region, wine country and all of that, as well as restaurants, as well as individual businesses. But how many people do you think, whether they be individuals, wineries, businesses, restaurants and the like, are a part of your network of giving?
I mean, I could tell you like on an annual basis, we probably have about 300 donors that are cash donors, but I can't even quantify like the touches that are out there of the phone calls that I get of people that are like, I want to volunteer. What do I do? And I'm like, well, let's sit down, let's have coffee. And then I come to find out they're passionate about homeless or they're passionate about mentorship and education. It's like, oh, let's get you serving on this board. This is your key. So we're really kind of a hub when it comes to bringing community together, even bigger than the investments that we make.
Yeah. I'll tell you though, if you do go to Must Charities, so it's mustcharities.org, and you go to their donors page and you can see their current partners, there is this amazing list of visionary partners, business patrons, and the list kind of keeps going after that, of people and wineries and brands that you will recognize from all over the Paso AVA, all over our county, really, for that matter. That are all somehow giving and being a part of this network of giving to Must Charities. It's pretty incredible, and it is definitely a testament to this community and how much we'd like to give back as we can. I want to get into a little bit of background here. Becky, what brought you to this position? Like personally, how did you find yourself in this position?
So I was actually running what is Slow Wine. So kind of like the Paso Wine Alliance. I was actually the executive director down in the other part of the county, the South County. And I've been in Templeton, a Templeton resident, 30 years now, over 30 years now. Wow. And just being involved in community, my husband and I have always loved to give back and volunteer. And I had helped a friend out one day and then jammed off to the city actually to pour at the California Wine Month tasting in the Ferry Building. Chris, I think you were there with me actually.
And
And on the way up, I was like, gosh, I found so much joy yesterday, like giving back. I wonder if anything will ever come about where I'll be able to tie in my business experience with giving back. Like, wouldn't that be an amazing job? Yes. And on Sunday, on the way back, I get an email, and I checked my BlackBerry at the time. And I get an email from one of the founders who was like, hey, we know you love your job, but we know you. All our kids happen to go to school together, or my husband taught their kids. It was just this like small community feel. And they're like, we know you love your job, but what do you think about this? And it was this idea, this concept. And I just got goosebumps. I still get goosebumps just like thinking about it today, because it was like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. And I can't wait to see what will transpire in the North County, watching all these great people come together. It's going to be mind blowing. And sure enough, I still continually blown away every day on what
it has been. It's been amazing to watch. It's been amazing to see how the network has grown. It's been amazing to see how many wineries are so vocal about giving to Must, and how many of them believe in the cause. And so that's pretty cool.
I have to give a little shout out to Becky though, because the thing is, I don't know if Must would be anything without her, because her enthusiasm is infectious. Like when you sit and talk to her, if she asks you for coffee, you're in trouble. If she asks you for lunch, you're in big trouble. And if you buy dinner, you're a member for life, because you just sit and listen to her talk, and you just sit and, the enthusiasm that comes out of her. If you have any part of you that wants to be philanthropic, if you want to give back, if you want to do anything, spend 5 minutes with her. That's it.
Thank you.
Carole, I wish you would have warned me when she invited me to lunch. I would have helped out. Golly.
I haven't gotten to dinner with him yet.
No dinner invitations, Becky, not happening.
It's coming, Jim. Aren't we supposed to get together next week?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think what's really cool, and one of the reasons, Chris, why I came on board too and knew it was going to be successful, is that, nonprofits, like you read those stories like, oh, 50% lost to overhead or 40% lost to overhead. This founding board was 100% committed to making sure that 100% of every community dollar that comes in went to projects, because they cover all of our overhead. And that sold me right out of the gate. I was like, well, yeah, this board is bought on. They are.
Who was the founder? Let's rattle off who the founders were.
Yeah, so the founders would be Eric and Lisa Jensen from Booker, and My Favorite Neighbor, Scott Vickel Hawley from Torrin, Terry and Jennifer Hogue from TH Wine Estates, TH Estate Wines. They changed their name. Okay. And Doug and Sabrina Cruz from Jack Creek Cellars. And then we had, did I get them all? Yeah. And then we had Rabobank also was very involved in the beginning too. So those were there's 4 wineries. Doug and Sabrina both sat on the board. The other spouses did not sit on the board, but they were obviously, you're involved when you're married to it, especially this kind of commitment. It's a big deal. So.
And it was definitely a commitment by all of them as couples too, because not only were they owning, making wine, doing what they do, and I think that tradition kind of really seems to continue too, because these are such small wineries that work so closely together. And so, yeah, they were definitely, you could say, all in as pairs as well.
And the collaborative giving, Terry actually brought out of the NFL, because he saw that. And so he's like, hey, what can transpire when people collaborate and give collectively really can move the needle on social issues. And so it started with like a backyard barbecue kind of conversation, and then it just spiraled and morphed. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know Terry's contribution on that, because I was actually curious. I mean, does this kind of set up, or is there almost a template for this? And so I don't know. I mean,
it's funny you ask. When we started, there were a couple models. One in New York, they have what's called the Robin Hood Foundation, which is huge scale. We gleaned a little bit from them because we loved some things that they did. Part of that was the accountability. So like when we partner with an organization, we don't just give them $150,000 or a $500,000 check. we make installments, and they have benchmarks and accountability that they have to meet on a quarterly basis in order to get the next check. So that idea came from them. We've had a couple different regions reach out to us recently wanting to duplicate this model. So we are looking at kind of a franchise type option, but we'll see where that leads. And I don't know what it'll look like, but it's working, it's making a difference. And so like, where does that go from here? I'm kind of excited to see.
Well, the accountability issue is what sold me. Like because Santos and I have a million places that we wanted to give to, we do give to. There's just so many things that you can do right now. I mean, he comes from a country that has a lot of need at this point, and we do a lot of things down there as well. But when I heard about the accountability, that has always been our biggest question mark. When you're giving money to different organizations, it's like, Jose Andres, his World Central Kitchen. When you give to World Central Kitchen, it's going to make meals for people that are in need right now, especially during, hurricanes and, all the other crises that have been going on. So it's the accountability issue is the most important thing to Santos and I as donors, because it's kind of like, I know I'm not giving my money to somebody who is going to be taking some of it and, doing something else with it. I know it's going to Echo. I know it's going to the Boys and Girls Club. I know it's going to all the issues that they're talking about. And I think that's one of the key things about Must Charities. And I also think it's one of the key things about this area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. Carole, while you're talking, let's then continuing on the whole backstory, because I'd love for people to understand. You just said, you gave us a little window into it and talking about where Santos comes from and giving there and all of that. But tell us a little bit about how you came to be in Paso and how Il Cortile and La Cosecha kind of started.
Well, Santos and I are we moved here from Santa Monica. We're not from there originally. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and he's from Honduras. And we met in the early 2000s. And I was in the film business prior to this and working a lot. So I had been to the Central Coast many, many times. I would come up for a 2-3 day weekend just to get away from LA for, just a breather. And when we first got married, we were both so busy that we never had a chance to take a honeymoon or get away or whatever. So about a year later, we had 3 days off together and we came up to the Central Coast. We had been toying with the idea of opening a restaurant in LA or in Santa Monica and looking at properties there. I grew up in the restaurant business. I went from restaurant business to the film business, back to the restaurant business. And so it's always been in my blood. And I always thought in the back of my mind, some way, somehow I'm going to be back in the restaurant business. So we were looking at different places in Santa Monica, and we came up here for a 3-day weekend, and we actually were on the coast. We weren't in Paso at this point. And Santos just looked around and he said, "This looks like part of my country." He said, "I would love to live up here." And he said, "Is there any chance that you might consider looking at this area?" And so we took many, many trips up here, and we went to all the different little towns. And when we got to Paso, we both looked at each other and said, if we're going to do it up here, this is the town we're going to be in. And continued for a long time, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And just a quick little story. What happened was I did a lot of international travel in the film business. And I happened to be in Hong Kong. And I had a assistant who was my translator and, took me around and helped me out in everything that I needed to do. And Santos was working in he was the executive chef of a restaurant down in LA. And he was just finishing up and I was just starting my day. So we were talking on the phone and it was December. And I said, when we get home after Christmas, we have to make one more trip to Paso and decide what we're going to do, because this is going back and forth for way, way, way too long. And he said, okay, great. And, he said, good night. He said, have a great day. I said, have a great night. And got ready to go to work. And I got my call from the girl who was helping me out. And she said, I'm waiting downstairs. And I went downstairs and she was waiting for me, and she had this black sweater on and a red t-shirt, and on the t-shirt it said Paso Robles, just Paso Robles. And I looked at her and I said, where did you get that t-shirt? And she said, oh, at the night market in Hong Kong. And I said, do you have any idea what that means? And she said, no. And I said, that is the town that we're considering moving to. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to Santos in a text and said, we're moving to Paso Robles. And sure enough, in January, we found a house. In February, we found a location. And then the financial crisis hit and we lost everything. So we had our house and nothing until a year later. And then we finally got the space where Il Cortile is. Took us about 9 or 10 months before we were ready to open. And we opened in the middle of the financial crisis.
Talk about resilient.
Yeah.
Especially after this last year, I know, and I know a lot of our restaurants, including yours, we're definitely looking at how to make it. And so, but we're obviously exceptionally grateful that you have. And that was a cool story. I've heard it a few times, but I always dig hearing it because that is that was meant to be, right?
It was meant to be. And I got to tell you, this past year was a little scary for us. We didn't know if we were going to make it. And thank God we did, because right now we're experiencing some good times. And it's really, I guess the past year, losing so much and missing so much, literally I'm brought to tears like a couple times a week when I see regular customers sitting in the restaurant ordering their favorite dish or whatever. And, I haven't seen them in a year, or they're happy to be seated inside, or they're happy to be seated outside in their favorite table, having their favorite dish, having their favorite wine. And, just seeing their faces, it's kind of, you take for granted a lot of things until something like that happens. And now we're just extremely grateful that we're up and running again and having a good time of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of favorite dish, the osso buco is like always. Come on, man.
If we took it off the menu, we'd have riots, I think.
And I love, Carole, that like, despite all that, I mean, he said it, Chris said it, like, talk about resilience, but just your heart for giving back too, because you never wavered. Like, you guys were struggling, and you were like, how can I come up with an idea to continue to give back to my community? Also, like, benefiting like my employees and taking care of them. Like, what do I need to do? And you were just so creative with that. And I'm always inspired by that and drawn to that, because I love that type of energy, of course. But just thank you, because even though you guys have only been here for this short amount of time in Paso, it feels like you are rooted here, like for, 50, 60 years. Like, you embody that Paso spirit, and it's awesome. So
it does feel like we've been here for 50 or 60 years.
That's the restaurant industry.
That's the restaurant industry.
That's a good segue into who hasn't been here for 50 or 60 years.
No.
But Jim, I'd love you made a little bit of mention to it from Dallas and Texas, and I'd love for you to fill us in on where you came from and what brought you over to Paso, and how you're sitting in that seat today.
Ooh, wow. Well, I'll make this, forgivingly brief here. Barbara and I went to school in up the state somewhere, and we did a lot of wine tasting in Napa in the mid 70s. So you know how old I am. And we both fell in love in college with each other, and we fell in love with wine really at the same time. That all just kind of came together. And I was probably not going to be an entrepreneur. I think my, talents were probably better suited to organizations. And so I figured eventually I'm going to get retired. Back then, everybody had to retire at some age. And I told Barbara, I said, well, when I do retire, and assuming our kids are out of the house, if we have kids, then I want us to make wine. And she said, great, whatever. So we did do a lot of wine traveling together with friends, both in the United States and outside of it. And then in 2009, this good friend, Sammy Pappert and Cheryl Pappert, friends of ours, moved from Dallas to So anyway, they came in on July 4th of 2009. On July 4th of 2010, Barbara came out and visited with them. We were doing things, and Sammy said, "Let's go wine tasting." And I said, "Sammy, man, I don't want to drive like 7 or 8 hours up to Napa. Are you out of your mind?" And he goes, "Jim, there's like 300 wineries within 40 minutes of our house." And I looked at him, I said, "Where?" And he said, "In Paso." And he probably said Paso Robles. And I said, "Sorry, not much of a geography major here. I don't know where that is." And he said, "Well, we're going." And I remember we went actually over to the east side, which of course for me, I didn't know the difference between east and west. But as we're driving there through all of it, Barbara and I said, "My God, it's beautiful here." And so we came back the next year and visited again, and we went, wine tasting again. And Barbara and I are looking at everything going, "Man." And I said, "Barbara, I think this is where we should make, wine." And she goes, "What?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to retire here sooner or later." And she goes, "You're serious?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to do something. I'm not good at sitting around, and I'm a lousy golfer." So we literally just started coming back, started looking around, started meeting people. They were genuine people. They were authentic people. They were nice people. They had great food, like at Il Cortile and La Cosecha. The only place I sold my wine to, any place, the only place I went to, and Carole was nice enough to put it on her list for me, which, made me proud because I think she runs such great restaurants and I always tell everybody to go there. But in the story is we found a piece of property. There was nothing on it. I mean, there were squirrels and gophers and ground cover. And that was it. And we bought it and we planted in 13, finished our house in early 15, had our first vintage in 16, opened the tasting room on June 18th of last year. And we have 2 kids in Dallas and 3 kids in the Bay Area. So we get to see them, the 3 a lot when we're here, and the other 2 when we're in Dallas. So it's wonderful, and it's turned out to be everything that we wanted it to be. We have a great winemaker in Anthony Yunt. His wife, Hillary, is our vineyard manager. So it's all in the family. And we're proud of the wines that we're making and serving to people. And we continue to run into nothing but nice, genuine, authentic people, whether that's doing business or whether that's just visiting with them in the tasting room. We love this area. We love these people here and couldn't be happier.
Can I just say something? I just remember your assistant always calling when you would come up from Dallas and make the reservation for you. And the name kept coming up and the name kept coming up. And then when we first started meeting you and, I saw you come back many, many times, it was so nice because it's just one of those familiar faces. It's like I was saying, it's like one of those faces that you see in the restaurant and you're happy when they walk in the door. But I'm so thrilled that I sat down with you to taste your wines because I'm telling you, our customers are crazy about them. And
you're very nice.
You're amazing wines, really, really good wines. We just took our whole staff over there. So
Carole, coming from you, that is a real compliment because I know you know your wine. And again, I couldn't be more thankful to Anthony and to Hillary because it starts in the vineyard and it ends in the cellar, and we have a wonderful team and we're very blessed.
Carole does know her wine, and that we actually often invite Carole to come in for our blind tastings when we're trying to pick wines for certain programming and things where we want to put our best foot forward, and always appreciate your palate, Carole. So,
and Carole, just a little inside baseball. When I first walked into your restaurant and I looked up and you had some bottles, I think, on display, and one of them was Flaccinella. I went, "Oh, she must know her Italian wine," because that is my absolute favorite, period, end of subject, Italian wine, no holes barred.
Yeah, it's one of my.
Wow, here I am in Paso and they're Flaccinella. That's hard to find on the list in Dallas.
Yeah. It's hard to get. It's hard to get unless you spend a fortune on like 27,000 bottles from the distributor. We have it, and we're going to continue to have it. So
Oh, now I got to go over there and get that. Jim, Jim, what are you sipping on? And show us the label. Show us 6 Mile Bridge.
Oh, you know, I didn't. I can go get a bottle while somebody else is showing, but I have here our 2017 Cabernet Franc. I would say it's the second best wine I think that Anthony has made for us, and I think he's made great wines of everything he's done. But I particularly love Cab Franc. I'm kind of a right bank Bordeaux person, so you know the right bank's kind of more Merlot and Cab Franc driven. We're going to do a white bank Rhine, and we've already blended it for 2019. Start making it heavier with Merlot and some Cab Franc. But when we made this single varietal, single vineyard Cab Franc, I realized we're again have just wonderful Cab Franc fruit, and it's special because today we didn't make very much of it. We were just kind of practicing, and we have a new person working for Rosie who's going to run our tasting room. Cassidy, she used to work at Brecken, and so I'm going to take a bottle of this down today and join it with her. And Rosie, I wonder, she wonders why we started her on April 1st. I hope she's not overthinking that. And this is her first day, so we're going to go down and welcome her to 6 Mile Bridge and the team that's down there doing our hospitality. I will tell you something, and you know, Carole knows this in spades, but you know, I thought it was all about the wine, because I sometimes say, you know, I'll go eat great food in a lousy place in a crummy building, and probably even put up with some bad service a little bit. But boy, I've learned in this tasting business, the hospitality is at least, if not more important than the wine. Mm-hmm. And in my experience, you can't teach friendly, you can only hire friendly. And I started with Rosie, who's friendly to everybody, and we just hire friendly people. So come visit us and have some wine and meet all of our friendly people.
I second that wholeheartedly. You have a really great team over there. I should tell you, if you're digging, and I rarely get too markety on this, but if you're digging what Jim's saying about the wines there and his talk about Anthony and Hillary, just letting you know, we're rolling out an auction. Well, we've already announced our Wine Country virtual auction that we've got going on right now, or well, beginning on May 10th, I should say, but you can currently preview lots anyway on pasowine.com. Jim's got a really cool lot in that he and his wife, along with Anthony and Hillary, are going to share 6 Mile wines, Royal Nonesuch Farm wines, as well as dinner wines for a really fun lunch out there. Is it lunch or is it dinner? Forgive me.
I think we're going to actually do a dinner, and okay. I think this will work. And if it doesn't, Chris, then tell me, but I'm going to turn this around so they can see the view that they will have for dinner. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see it? Okay. So that's the view that they'll have. So, you know, in case there's a bidder on the thing, we'll pour our wines, and we're going to pour dinner wines, and we're going to pour Royal Nonesuch Farm wine. So we're going to give somebody a sample of 3 different wines, and Hillary and Anthony will join us along with whoever buys the package. So I hope they'll bid it up and commit it to great causes that you all are doing.
Yeah, thank you. And the causes there, of course, are we have a scholarship program here through our foundation where we give back to the community through high school kids scholarships as they're moving on to whether it be trade school or college, that they're looking for a little helping hand, we're able to provide that up here in the North County to 3 of the high schools here in town. Hey, Carole, or I'm sorry, Becky, I want to go to you real quick. What are you drinking? And let's talk a little bit about that.
I am drinking Jack Creek Chardonnay. It's their Concrete Blonde. This is a 2018. I chose it, because it was in my wine fridge. And I almost forgot, like, what do I have? But I chose it because Jack Creek was some of the founders of Must Charities. Doug and Sabrina Cruz own Jack Creek. They have hence sold and quasi-retired, but I don't think anyone ever retires on the Central Coast because we always need things to keep us busy. But I chose it because of that. It's also, the weather is gorgeous today, so I needed that crisp white, and it's just the perfect wine for a Thursday afternoon when it's a 80 degrees with a slight breeze blowing. So
yeah,
perfect.
exactly. And one of your visionary donors I chose is the Ducey Pinot Grigio, mostly the same thing, but of course also it's applicable back to most charities, as Janelle and her family, of course, are ever so giving. And I think Billy Grant is on your board. Is that right?
Yep, he's on our exec board right now.
Yeah. So thought that would be appropriate. And also it's a fun wine to have. And it's considered, I suppose, one of those porch poundy type of wines because it is so crisp and it is warm today.
It is.
Carole, what are you sipping on?
Well, I came home and I forgot to bring wine with me. So I grabbed what was in my refrigerator. I wanted to do a white one, and it is a French wine. It's a French.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I have some red wines here. I just couldn't open up a bottle of red wine at 80 degrees right now.
Well, we always encourage everybody to sip on something. And sometimes when we have winemakers on, of course, we do a little bit of a bottle share thing. And so, and I always like to tie it back to wine. I do want to say about Cab Franc from our region, you're going to find that a lot of the Bordeaux varieties do so well here. We have over 60 varieties that are grown here. Cab Franc, of course, always likes to exhibit a lot of those red fruit characteristics, especially when they're grown on places like where Jim's property is, where there is a good vein of limestone along with calcareous shale that exists over there. So the minerality and the acidity, the natural acidity that comes out is going to be pretty amazing. And that fruit character, of course, we get warm here, but cool off at night. And so it's always a really great wine to discover and have when you can find one of those really yummy Cab Francs from around Paso. I know that. Chardonnay.
Hey, Chris,
isn't
Chris, could I get a little clip of that and use it as a testimonial on my site? Would you mind giving that to me? I really appreciate that. You nailed it. You're doing it as well as better than I do it.
Running red.
Sorry to interrupt.
Chardonnay, of course, not exactly what Paso might be known for, but there's still plenty of Chardonnay out there. Historically, it was Chard and Cab that was planted back over in the 70s and into the early 80s here. But the little pocket of Chard that exists over there in the Templeton Gap area, kind of Willow Creek, near Jack Creek, the creek itself, not just the Jack Creek property, is a perfect little kind of Goldilocks area for growing Chardonnay because it doesn't get as hot. It does stay cool. As a matter of fact, it's that one place every winter where if you could have black ice on the highway, it exists right there on Highway 46, just as it crosses the Jack Creek itself. It's one of those spots that it is probably about the coolest area you can get. And so the ability to grow some Chardonnay there 100% makes sense. And so just wanted to talk a little bit about those two varieties. Guys, I loved having you on. I hearing about Must and all of the great things that Must is doing, and your passion, Becky, jumps off the screen. Honestly, like Carole said, it's actually infectious. Thank you for being on.
Yeah.
Carole, Jim, also thank you so much. I want to give you guys a quick second. Talk a little bit about what's happening next. Do you have a virtual tasting? I mean, we already pimped the auction and all that. But Carole, I'll start with you. What's happening with the restaurants right now?
Right now, we're just kind of doing day to day. Unfortunately, every year we've been able to do wine dinners, January, February, and March, and just the uncertainty of everything. We didn't do that this year, so we're having our regular dinners with specials. Like we have our truffles all the time. We have all everybody's favorite dishes. Santos did a new menu over at La Cosecha about a month ago, and it's really kind of fun, like a lot of really cool appetizers on it. And he'll be changing out Il Cortile probably in about maybe 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what's at the farmers markets. So we're just doing regular dining at this point with specials and all his homemade pastas and all his great food. Hopefully if things go well this year and we don't have the on again off again, we'll start to resume some wine dinners a little later in the year, but we're just going to take it day by day right now.
Cool. Right on. Right on. Well, I look forward to getting over there, checking out that new menu that's over at La Caseta. Is the Brazilian soup or stew?
Brazilian stew will be on it forever and ever.
Thank you.
Shot on. And
We love our food here in Paso.
And at night, our paellas, the traditional Spanish paellas, are still on. But I mean, he did some really, really cool appetizers. You know, we've got a different ceviche. He's got he did his version of boudin blanc, you know, a little French dish in a Spanish restaurant, and he's got all kinds of you know, croquetas and all the jamon and things like that. And it's just, they're really, really good.
Awesome. Awesome. That's all right. Now I'm hungry. Jim, what's happening out there at 6 Mile Bridge? We're starting a new employee today, and then you guys are open for business.
Yeah, if it's okay, Chris, could I just do something a little different here at the end?
Sure.
When I had the opportunity to be part of this community foundation in Dallas, I went out to the North Texas Food Bank and to see it. They were asking for a grant, and they told me a story of two parents and a child that came into the North Texas Food Bank. And while the parents were over getting some food, the young son, you know, 6 or 7, asked one of the people at the North Texas Food Bank, "Are my mom and dad going to give me away?" And the person looked at this young boy and said, "Well, of course not. Why would you ever think that?" And he said, "Well, we didn't have enough food to feed our dog, so we had to give our dog away. And now we don't have enough food to feed us. And so I'm worried they were going to give me away." You know, philanthropy means love of humanity. And I know all the people on this call love humanity, and they're all involved with philanthropy. And when you hear stories like that, it tugs at your heart, and it makes you want to be a part of a community that takes care of its most in need people. And that probably more than anything is what Barbara and I really love about this place, finding out how much they care and love the humanity that is most in need.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Great story.
That was
That's
really
great.
sweet.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah, no, I almost start crying every time I tell it. I just, you know, it just reminds you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love what Must does. I love the kind of contributions that Carole makes, and it's so nice of you, Chris, to have something that is, you know, a theme around what a great philanthropic entity Must is, and what a wonderful community full of caring people this is. Makes me feel great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Becky, I'm going to wrap it up with you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to segue off Jim's thing, because I think it's really important that people understand it's kind of like the three-legged stool. You can have a strong private sector, a strong public sector, and you really need a strong nonprofit sector in order to have a really healthy, vibrant community. And we see that here. I mean, it's why we founded Must Charities, and it really, you know, is more than just Must Charities. No matter where you are, we've got people from Columbus, Ohio, and whatever. But get involved in your community, give back to people in your community, be strategic about it, because that's what ultimately makes this world a better place. Like, just do it, just do something. That's why we're here. It's why we were created. Like, give back. It feels good. And it's always better to give than to receive. It really is. It's better getting than getting. So.
No, absolutely. And that's probably a really perfect ending to this really great call. I'm so glad I invited all of you to be on. I'm so glad you accepted to be on. And gosh, cheers. Here's to, you know, more amazing things coming out of this community. So, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks for Chris.
All right, on. We'll catch you next week. Or no, we're not going to catch you next week. My kids are off next week of school, and so they're on spring break, and so I'm not going to be doing a show next week because I'm going to be around. I can't travel anywhere or do anything like that, but I'm not working. Instead, we will not have a show, and we will be back at you on the 15th. We're working on a show. I'm working on one right now to see what we're going to have. We've got other shows lined up for the rest of the month of April, so we're taking next week off, but go back to pasowine.com next week to see, or maybe even tomorrow, to see what we're planning for the 15th. Thanks everyone for tuning in. See you next time.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.